Hi friends, welcome to Talking Points Office Hours Live. We are back again. We're here every Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Central. So you can join us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter if you're watching this pre-recorded. Happy to have you if you're here with us. Also happy you're here. Invite your friends next time. We want to have you in the chat. We want to answer your questions. We want to have great discussions about family engagement and get you started on talking points and using all the lovely features that you have. So we are very, very happy that you're here. My name is Paige. I have been with Talking Points for 3 years, and I'm very, very pumped to get you involved. So quickly, I do want to say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Just kidding. Please excuse my sniffles and my raspy voice. The allergens are pretty strong here in Middle Tennessee. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to power through it because I am very excited to talk about this week's topic, which is, drumroll please. That's kind of a pitiful drumroll, but we're going to talk about the Talking Points for Families experience, which if you're an educator, teacher, counselor, principal, whatever you are on Talking Points, you probably don't really see what families are experiencing on Talking Points very often, if ever. So we thought it would be really helpful if we would kind of give you a peek into that side of things. So we're going to talk about some of the features that they have, some of the how they get onto the platform, all of their options, and of course then we're going to have time for questions. And I've got my lovely teammate Jocelyn in the chat from support, so she can bring questions, she can answer questions, and she's going to help me out as usual. So let's get started talking about the family experience. So the first thing I would love to share with you is that with Talking Points, and I'll say that this is a pretty big difference between Talking Points and other family engagement, family communication platforms that I have seen. Choice is a really, really big, just an important thing in the classroom, outside of the classroom, with families, with students, and we've included it in our solution. So with Talking Points for Families, families can choose whether they are going to communicate with you via text message, just regular old text message, or via the Talking Points for Families mobile app. And it is on Android and iOS. So, and that app is free for them. So regardless of whatever kind of phone they've got, it can be a smartphone, flip phone, whatever kind of cell phone that is, they will be able to use Talking Points with you. They may not have access to additional data. They may not want to pay for every single text message that's coming through. We don't know everybody's circumstance, but we need to be in connection with every single family. And that's where the kind of the equity piece comes in, of like, you as a teacher don't need to be thinking about, like, how do I need to connect with this person? Oh, but this message isn't going to go through to everybody. You need a solution that's going to connect you with everybody all at once, because your time, like we talked about last time, your time is sacred and you don't have a lot of it. So with Talking Points, we give families that option of whatever technology you've got, whatever cell phone you have, whatever cell phone plan you have, it's going to work. And you're going to be able to involve yourself in your child's education. So the way that it starts, not only is it a choice for them on how to use it, but there's what we call no barrier to entry. We're all about breaking down barriers to communication here at Talking Points. And the very first one that teachers and families both face on a lot of the solutions that are out there is simply getting families connected. And we've broken that barrier down in the way that on Talking Points, when you first sign up to your free account, you add the families on. You add in all the contacts, you put in your roster, and boom, you can start connecting with families immediately. You can start sending those messages. And I can pull up my demo account in just a second. But they don't have to download something. They don't have to learn the steps to use something. You don't have to sit them all in a room and explain how to use it. They don't need a special code or password to get in. You have added them already, and they are going to receive a text message like they normally would from anyone, explaining what Talking Points is and that it's you talking to them. Then they'll make that choice. Okay, do I just save this as Mrs. Delogier's phone number and talk to my teacher that way? Or do I want to download this app and use it separately? That's where their choice comes in. So for families using Talking Points, they don't have to work hard. It's super easy for them to get on, which means that we have a huge success rate of families being connected with teachers. It is very successful for teachers. I believe this stat, and let me pull it up on our site because I don't want to get it wrong, but I want to say that 98% of 98% of teachers were able to reach families they had never reached before. That's a huge number. That's close to every single family in your class. Think of those families you've never been able to get a hold of. You're going to be able to connect with those families. So it's not hard for them to get on. They can choose how they stay connected with you once they are on. And then they have access to several different features that make Talking Points a really seamless, really helpful tool, a helpful resource for them beyond just a two-way communicator. So when we talk about enhanced equity features, and these are specifically on the app, most of them, some of them apply to SMS text as well. When we talk about equity features, we're talking about the features that we have added into our platform to make communication seamless, to help families learn about the U.S. education system if they're not familiar with it, to help them understand the meaning of what you're saying, to help with translation, to help with understandability, all of these things that you either don't have the time to stop and do for every single family, or there's just not capacity on either side to do. So I have a deck here. I can share some of those features with you because you may have been on Talking Points for years and not even realize they're there for your families to use, and you can share those with them. So let me do this real quick. I'm gonna share my screen. So one of the equity features that we have is called our readability flag. And what that is when you are on the web platform and you start typing out a message that might be of a grade level, a reading level higher than, I believe, 5th grade, the flag will pop up and just let you know, hey, this may not be understood by family members, family contacts whose literacy level is lower in either English or their home language, their preferred language. Because we know that everyone, families, whomever, literacy levels vary. So we want to make sure that we're writing messages that will be understood by whoever is getting them. And then it also links to what it's showing here is it links to this article that we've written and maintained and updated called Writing for Translation, that gives you lots of tips about like how to keep it short, how to make sure you are just writing messages that will translate well, that will be understandable regardless of language, making sure you're not using idioms, things like that, so that everything stays understandable regardless of who you're sending it to. So that's on your end. And then the help me understand button is a little question mark that you will see next to messages that come through from a family. So again, this kind of focuses on some of those literacy level issues, also possibly just human error. If someone sends something through that has a typo, somebody's going too fast, or if they're speaking into the message rather than typing, and it comes through a little wonky and the translation isn't right, then what you can do is click that help me understand button, and it will send that message back to a human translator. This is part of our enhanced translation solution that is very different than any other tool that you're going to use. Send it back to a human translator who will take a look at the context and say, you know what? That was just a simple typo. What they meant to say was this. And then you don't have to interrupt, try to parse out what it was that they were trying to say through a translated message, and you can continue that conversation. We have also added to the family app. So those who download the family app will be able to use text to speech and speech to text. If they use texting, regular texting, a lot of their phones will have that as well. So they'll have access to that. But we've added it to the mobile app as well. So they should be able to listen to your messages in their home language or English, and speak their messages as well, as you can see here. This is one of my favorites, videos with translated captions. So when you attach a video that you want to send to families, it will ask you if you want to add translated captions. So as you know, translation is one of our top features that we have. And so our brilliant engineers, our brilliant devs have created this really cool tool that will listen to the speech in your video and translate it, caption it, and then translate it for each family that you send that video to at the bottom. So whether you are demonstrating like how to solve a math problem that you've sent home so families can help, or reading a short story that you want them to listen to and answer questions about, whatever it is that you're sending a video home about, you may like give a short tour of your classroom at the beginning of the year, say like, here's our reading corner. So they're not shocked when they walk in, and give them a little welcome. Anything that you want to send a video about, make it more personal. Families who don't speak English, who don't understand what you're saying, they could read along and understand with the child when they're watching the video. I love this feature. It's super cool. This one is only available on mobile at the moment, so want to make that one clear. Oh, you can watch that video on our YouTube. We also have some equity features that are specifically designed to help families who are unfamiliar with the US education system specifically. So that could be for multiple reasons. That could be they didn't grow up in the US, or they dropped out of school early on, or they just simply, you're using terminology that they're not familiar with because they're not a teacher. Because we tend to do that, throw the words IEP out there, or 504, and just expect people to understand what we're talking about. So we implemented this feature called Parent Ed 101. So we have terms that we've identified and had former educators on the Talking Points team, define those terms in, again, definitions that are written at a literacy level lower than 5th grade, as close as we could. Some of them are kind of complicated, like IEP, and we worked them down as close as we could. And they'll see those words highlighted. So if they don't know that word yet, then they can tap on it, as you see here, and see the definition pop up. So if they're a little embarrassed that they don't know the definition, or they're not comfortable asking, or they don't want to interrupt the conversation, mess up the flow, they can just read the definition and say, oh, now I know what she's talking about, and keep moving forward with the conversation. And that just kind of helps families feel more comfortable, takes away the formality, and we'll continue adding to that glossary as time goes on, as teachers ask for more words, and as we talk to our partners and see what the field looks like, what families are saying they don't understand. And I believe I've talked about this a little bit when I've talked about translation, and I'd like to do a whole office hours live about our translation system. But in-app glossary, our in-app education glossary, a little bit different than the Ed 101. Our translation support is phenomenal. And if you are starting talking points for the first time with any families who are multilingual or just English is not their first language, you will be shocked at how accurate those translations are. Um, and we've included our AI is constantly being trained by the conversations that are coming through. It's learning from the educational conversations, the educational terms, the cultural conversations that are happening. So, like um, some of those like slang typing terms that come through, like text. Like if someone's typing in Spanish and they type the letter K for the question K, our app knows that, so we can just bypass that confusion, and it knows that they're asking what. And then if, for instance, this picture says sub, it's got a sandwich, a teacher, and a submarine. Well, our app was built for teachers. So it knows if you say, we're going to have a sub tomorrow, it's not going to translate as we're going to have a sandwich tomorrow, or we're going to have an underwater boat tomorrow. It's going to say we're going to have a replacement teacher tomorrow in those languages. So our app was built for you. It was built for teachers. It's going to translate into your educational terminology properly. It's going to bypass those confusions as much as possible. So those are some of those equity features that we're really proud to be able to offer to you and to families. Stop sharing there. Awesome. And I know I talked through those really fast. We do have a lot of those explained in more detail on our resource center. I can put in our comments the link to our resource center here. So if you want to do a little searching for more details, you can just click that link, go to our resource center, type in Ed 101 or speech to text, any of those that you want to learn more about, and read up on those. You can also, and then you can grab that information and share it with your families if they're asking about any of those. So now that I've talked a ton about the family experience, it's time for your questions. So if you're watching live, we would love for you to jump in the chat and share your questions. They can be about the family experience. They could be about anything else talking points. You're here. You've got us live. We're yours to answer your questions. I've also got Jocelyn from support here. She's brought some of our questions we've been hearing a lot lately. So I'm going to answer some of those in case they're the ones that are top of mind for you as well. So I will start with some of those. Let me take a sip. The allergies are really getting me. All right, let's see. Great question. The very first question was, are there two separate apps for teachers and families? And that is a yes. People who come on for the first time to Talking Points, especially if they go on to the mobile experience to download the Talking Points for Teachers app, sometimes they accidentally download the Talking Points for Families app. So make sure, if you are helping out a family or if you're downloading it for yourself, make sure you're looking for Talking Points for Teachers or Talking Points for Families. They are two separate icons on mobile. Teachers is white and Families is blue. I just sent a link in the chat so that you can see what those look like and the actual link to the download. on the web, both can also be signed up for separately. So great question there. If families have any questions, can they contact customer support? That is also a great question. So we do have a very active, very helpful support team who answers all of our questions, and teachers are constantly writing in. The answer is yes, families can also reach out to support. If they are using the mobile app, they have a button that looks just like yours that will start a conversation, start a chat with our support team. So they have the same support. If they are using regular text message, they will likely need to ask you to ask us a question, because there's not really a way for them. There's not really a button like in their text messaging to reach out to us. But they could always write to support@talkingpts.org. But they could do that, or you could write via the chat in your app. So either way works for helping out families. All right. If a family's language setting is incorrect, how can it be changed? That's a great question. There are two options. And for each of these questions, I'm putting a link that has the answer that I'm sharing out loud. So make sure you check those out. There are two options. Families can change it using the mobile app, or teachers can help update the language. So I'm going to show you, put this in the comments, and then I'm going to show you on my web app how I would change a family contact's language. So let me share my screen. So this is my account. If I go to all my students, well, let's see, my social studies class, and I have Kevin. So if his father decides that he's asking me, he wants his contact, I'm going to take this logo away so you can see what I'm clicking on. Let me remove that for a moment. Okay, so if I'm looking at a chat with a family member and Kevin's dad has told me, I actually need this conversation in Spanish, not in English, I would go to the three dots up in the right-hand corner. I would click on those, view student details, and then I would click the three dots here, edit contact, and then you can change anything there. And that's where you would change the language, phone number, anything that's wrong. That is something you can change, or you can let the family member know they can change it in their app. If the family member has text message, then they would have to ask you to change it. So that's why we give you both the opportunity to change it. So that's a great question. How can a family user switch from using the app to SMS text message? And yes, another great question. So a lot of families, well, you actually never know. Like, they may decide at the beginning they want to do it one way, and then things change and they want to switch. So if they start out on the app and they decide, okay, I want to change to text message, all they would need to do is log out, not delete, log out of the app, because that is what signals the system to start sending them text messages. They can then delete the app if they want, but they need to log out first, because that's what signals our system to the fact that they are no longer active. So that's a really, really important question. All right. Next question. Okay, I see one here. If a family user, cannot understand the message translation, what can they do? Okay. Let me get this answer for you shared in the comments. Y'all have asked some great questions this week. Sorry about the sniffles. So we talked about the Help Me Understand button for educators, for teachers on your app. Family members have a similar option on their app, so they can also click the question mark next to their message, and they will send it over to a human translator who will take a look. Same situation. So it's the Help Me Understand feature that they can use as well. And then, as we talked about earlier, I see a question about if I add a family user to my account, is it necessary for them to download the app? So I just want to reiterate that we give families the choice because ever since the beginning, we have recognized that not all families have access to internet, Wi-Fi, reliable computers, all of those things. And we also recognize that not all families have money for smartphones and for unlimited text messaging and all of these things. So one of the barriers that we try to break down earlier on was access to technology. So families do not have to download an app. They have an option to. They can choose to use regular text messaging, or they can download the free mobile app. Those are their two options. They can also use Talking Points on the web. I know that there are some folks who are family contacts who are at work all day and they aren't allowed to have their phones out, but they can open it on a tab on the website or like on their browser, so that if they are getting messages from a teacher, they can still be alerted to that. So that is, I believe, let me make sure that they would go to families.talkingpoints.org. Oh, talkingpts.org. Putting that in the chat as well. So if they wanted to use the web as well, that's an option. So they actually have three. They have three options. I know that mobile is more frequently used by families, but it's the same account all three ways. They can use whichever one is most convenient to them at any point. So we just want you to be connected at any time. So I don't see any more questions right now. If you have them, throw them in the chat and I will look at them. Before we answer any more, though, I want to issue our challenge for the week, messaging challenge. So since we're talking about the family experience, I want you to look into your account to take note of who is using the app and who is using text. So when you look at your class roster in your account, there's a little icon that will say text and that will say app. I think the app one is purple and the text one is green. So next to every contact, it'll tell you what they're using. So you can nudge those who might benefit from downloading the app now that you know how many amazing features are available to app users. So if you have several families who don't speak English as their first language and might benefit from speech to text, text to speech, or Ed 101 because they may not be familiar with educational terms, any of those things, if you feel like those would be super beneficial to them, maybe send them a nudge to download that app if they can. If they say, that's not something I can do, I don't have a smartphone, cool. You can still connect with them. You can still send translated messages, but see who's not on the app and see if they want to connect that way. So that's your challenge for the week. And we are almost out of time. I want to let you know that our next conversation is going to be around, I believe, parent-teacher conferences, family conferences, and making the most out of those. So if those are coming up for you, then I will see you next Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Central. Thank you so much for joining us. See you later.